Emma sat by the window, staring blankly at the empty street outside. Her small fingers tightly gripped the edge of the windowsill, as though it was the only thing keeping her tethered to the world. The room around her was still, silent, too silent. The colorful toys she used to play with now lay untouched, scattered across the floor like memories that no longer held meaning. It had been 3 weeks since her mother passed away, and Emma hadn't spoken a word since. At school, the teachers and classmates whispered behind her back, unsure of how to reach her, unsure of how to help. But Emma didn't care. She didn't want to speak, didn't want to be part of a world that felt so cold, so empty. Her mother's laughter, the warmth of her embrace, were gone. And now, all Emma could feel was the weight of her sadness pressing against her chest. That was when it happened. Out of nowhere, a small, scruffy cat appeared at her window, its big eyes locking onto hers. It meowed softly, its tail swishing back and forth, almost as if it had been waiting for her. For the first time in days, Emma's heart skipped a beat. She blinked. The cat was still there, staring up at her. She didn't know why, but something about that little creature, its quiet presence, pulled her in. It was as if it understood her pain, understood her silence. And just like that, she found herself reaching for the window, slowly pushing it open. The cat jumped up onto the windowsill as soon as the window was open, its paws making no sound against the glass. Emma hesitated for a moment before slowly extending her hand. The cat, with its warm, golden eyes, sniffed her fingers before gently brushing its head against her palm, a soft purr vibrating through its small body. The sound felt strange to Emma, like a forgotten memory, a faint echo of warmth. She had never been one to approach animals. But this cat, it felt different. She didn't need to say anything. She didn't need to force herself to smile or speak. The cat's calm presence was enough. It didn't judge her. It didn't demand anything. It just was. For the first time in weeks, Emma felt something stir inside her, a flicker of connection, something that felt almost like hope. The cat, sensing her hesitation, curled up beside her on the windowsill, nudging its head against her arm. Emma felt the warmth of its small body press against her, and though she didn't speak, her heart seemed to relax just a little. It was almost as if the cat was telling her it was okay to feel what she felt, to be sad, to be broken. But that it was okay to heal too. Emma didn't know how, but she felt safe. For the first time since her mother had passed, Emma felt like she wasn't alone. Days passed, and the cat returned, without fail, each morning. Emma began to look forward to its visits. She would sit by the window and wait for the familiar little face to appear, its soft meows signaling the start of her day. Emma didn't talk to the cat, she didn't need to. The purring, the nudge of its head against her hand, the way it would curl up beside her, these simple acts were enough. Slowly, Emma began to feel something shift within her. The emptiness in her heart, which had felt so all-consuming, started to feel less heavy. It wasn't that the sadness was gone, it wasn't. But the cat was filling the spaces in her heart that she thought would remain empty forever. With each quiet moment spent with the cat, Emma felt less isolated. She started to look outside again, noticing the birds singing, the rustling of the leaves in the wind. Small things that she had once ignored. She didn't speak, but her eyes no longer stared blankly. They were observing, learning, opening to the world again, just as the cat had quietly opened her heart. Her mother's voice still echoed in the corners of the house, but it wasn't as painful now. The silence wasn't as loud. Emma wasn't ready to go back to school, not yet. But something had changed. She no longer felt as though the world was closing in on her. Slowly, the heavy curtain of grief began to lift, little by little, and in its place, the cat's soft purring seemed to fill the room with warmth and a quiet peace that Emma had almost forgotten was possible. One morning, Emma awoke earlier than usual. The room was still dim, the soft glow of dawn barely filtering through the curtains. She looked at the window, and there it was, the cat, sitting outside, its eyes focused on her as though it had been waiting. Emma smiled, just a little, and, For the first time in weeks, something inside her stirred an urge to move, to do something. She got out of bed slowly, her bare feet touching the cool floor. The cat meowed softly, its tail flicking back and forth in anticipation. Emma walked to the window and opened it, letting the morning air in. The cat jumped onto the sill, rubbing against her arm as it always did. She stroked its fur, the act feeling comforting, like a ritual they shared. The world outside was still, calm, and Emma realized she felt better. Not perfect, but lighter. She wasn't as trapped in her sadness. She was starting to see the beauty in the small things again, the way the sun began to creep over the trees, the gentle hum of the morning. It was the cat, with its quiet patience and soft purring, that had helped her see this again. After a few moments, she whispered softly, "Thank you." The words felt strange coming out of her mouth after so long, but they felt right. They felt healing. The cat tilted its head slightly, as if acknowledging her. It didn't need words to understand. They had their own language, one built on trust, presence, and quiet companionship. Emma wasn't ready to speak to anyone else yet, but for the first time in a long while, she felt the hope she had locked away inside her begin to flow again. She wasn't alone anymore. She had found something in the cat, a way back to herself. The road ahead would still be long, but it didn't feel so overwhelming now. It wasn't long before Emma faced her first real challenge since the cat had entered her life. Her mother had been gently encouraging her to go outside, to at least sit in the garden for a little while. Emma had resisted at first, but with the cat beside her, she had felt a flicker of courage. One sunny afternoon, her mother asked if she wanted to walk to the nearby park. Emma froze. The thought of stepping outside, of facing the world she had shut herself off from, felt overwhelming. She looked at the cat, who was curled up peacefully beside her, and for the first time Emma felt torn. She didn't want to leave the comfort of her room, the only place where she felt safe. But the cat's soft eyes seemed to speak to her, urging her to try. She hesitated. Her mother smiled gently, sensing the hesitation, but not pushing her. "Whenever you're ready, sweetie," she said. Emma nodded, though a part of her still felt trapped in the heavy silence of the world beyond her room. The cat, sensing her unease, padded over to her feet and nudged her gently with its head. Emma crouched down and hugged the cat close, the warmth of its fur soothing her. For a moment, Emma closed her eyes, taking in the comfort of its presence. She didn't speak, but she felt the bond between them, stronger than ever. With a deep breath, Emma stood up slowly. She didn't know if she was ready to face the world, but she knew she didn't have to do it alone. The cat had taught her that sometimes, healing wasn't about forcing yourself to move forward, it was about taking small steps, one at a time. With the cat by her side, she decided to take that first step. The first walk outside was small, just a few steps down the garden path, but for Emma, it felt like the world had shifted. She wasn't running, not yet, but she was moving. The sun touched her skin, the breeze gently ruffled her hair, and the world around her didn't feel as intimidating as it once had. She still held the cat in her arms, its steady purring a reminder that she wasn't facing this alone. Her mother stood a few steps behind her, watching quietly, giving her the space she needed. "You're doing great, Emma," she said softly, but Emma didn't reply. She didn't need to. Her heart was lighter, not by much, but enough to feel the warmth of hope begin to seep in. Days turned into weeks, and Emma took more and more steps outside, her confidence growing each time. The cat was always there, a constant companion in her journey, its presence a silent reassurance that things were slowly changing. Slowly, Emma began to notice the little things, the color of the flowers in the garden, the sound of birds calling to each other in the trees, the warmth of the sun on her face. These were things she hadn't noticed in what felt like forever. The world wasn't so harsh. The cat, with its gentle purring, was helping Emma reconnect with everything she had lost touch with. It wasn't about the big, life-changing moments. It was the small moments, the tiny steps forward, that were healing her. Emma's mother, seeing the changes in her daughter, allowed her space, but was always ready with a gentle word of encouragement when needed. There were still hard days, days when Emma wanted to retreat back into her room and shut the world out again, but the cat was always there, helping her move past those moments of doubt. It was in these small moments, these quiet exchanges with the cat, that Emma began to truly heal. The world didn't seem so daunting anymore. She could take it one day at a time, one step at a time, with the cat by her side. As the months passed, Emma began to feel a change inside herself that she hadn't expected. The grief was still there, lingering like a shadow, but it no longer consumed her every thought. Instead, Emma had started to grow. She wasn't the same girl who had locked herself in her room, drowning in silence and pain. She had found something in herself again, something that had been buried under layers of sorrow. And much of it had come from the quiet companionship of the cat. It was strange to think how much a small, stray creature had changed her life. But Emma knew it was true. The cat had not just been a comfort during her darkest days, it had taught her to find peace in the little things, to appreciate life even in the midst of loss. Emma still didn't speak much to others, but that was okay. She had found a new way to express herself. She began drawing, filling pages with pictures of the cat, her garden, the sun. Every stroke of the pencil felt like a release, like a way to give life to the feelings she couldn't yet speak. Her mother noticed the change, too. "I see you've been drawing, Emma," she said one day, smiling warmly. Emma nodded but didn't speak. Her mother sat beside her, glancing at the sketches. "They're beautiful," she said. Emma felt a quiet warmth spread through her. For the first time, she realized she wasn't just healing for herself. She was healing for those around her, too. She began to reconnect with the world, not all at once, but in small, deliberate steps. She sat at the dinner table and smiled when her mother spoke, even though she didn't say much. She helped with the gardening, choosing the flowers she wanted to plant. Slowly, Emma's life was blooming again. It wasn't the same as it had been before, and it never would be. But she was finding a new version of herself. A version that didn't need to speak to be heard, didn't need to shout to be seen. The cat had helped her find her voice again, not in words, but in action. She was becoming someone who could love, who could heal, and who could find peace in the world, one quiet step at a time. One afternoon, as Emma sat outside in the garden with the cat curled beside her, she felt something stir within her. She was sketching again, her pencil moving across the paper, capturing the peaceful moment she shared with the cat. For the first time, she felt no hesitation. There were no walls around her heart, no heaviness in her chest. It was as if, in that moment, everything clicked. The grief that had once swallowed her whole no longer felt like a constant companion. She could breathe without it choking her. She could smile without the weight of sadness pulling her down. It was a breakthrough, a small one, but one that Emma knew was significant. She stood up slowly, her heart racing as she glanced at the house. Her mother was in the kitchen, humming softly as she worked. Without thinking, Emma walked toward the door. The cat followed her, patting softly at her feet. She hesitated for a moment, unsure, but the cat's steady presence urged her forward. She opened the door slowly, peeking inside. Her mother was busy, but when she saw Emma standing there, she stopped and smiled. "Hey, sweetie," she said softly, her voice full of warmth. Emma stood there for a moment, just looking at her mother. There were no words, but in that moment, there didn't need to be. She took a deep breath, her voice trembling as she whispered, "I'm okay." Her mother's eyes softened, her face filled with emotion. She opened her arms, and Emma, without a second thought, walked into them, feeling the warmth of her mother's embrace. She hadn't realized how much she needed that hug, how much she had been longing for the comfort of human touch. "You've been so strong, Emma," her mother whispered, holding her tight. "I'm so proud of you." Tears filled Emma's eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of release, of healing. She had finally allowed herself to feel everything that had been buried for so long. And it was in that moment, with the cat by her side and her mother's arms around her, that Emma realized she was ready to face the world again. Not as the girl who had lost everything, but as the girl who had learned to live again, one small step at a time. As the weeks went by, Emma's confidence continued to grow. She began speaking more, even if only in quiet words to her mother, but it was enough. The silence she had lived in for so long was slowly being replaced with small conversations, with moments of connection that she hadn't allowed herself to have. But there was still one thing Emma needed to face, the fear that the grief would return, that the weight of loss would drown her once more. The cat had helped her heal in ways she never imagined, but she knew the true test of her recovery was still to come. One evening, as the sun set and the sky was painted in soft hues of orange and pink, Emma sat on the porch, watching the world around her. The cat lay beside her, purring softly. Emma's mother was inside, cooking dinner, but Emma felt something stir deep within her. It wasn't a fear, but a sense of realization. She didn't have to keep running from the pain. She didn't have to shut herself off from the world anymore. She could live with it, live with the love she had lost, the grief she had carried, and still find a way to move forward. With the cat by her side, and her mother's love surrounding her, Emma knew she had the strength to face anything. The pain of losing her mother would never go away, but it no longer had to control her. She could take it with her, and still, somehow, move forward. The decision was clear, Emma wasn't going to let fear or grief define her life any longer. She was ready to live again, to be a part of the world, to embrace the love she still had. She stood up, the cat following her with its soft steps, and walked inside to join her mother. She was ready. She was more than ready. And with the love of the cat, the warmth of her mother, and the strength she had found within herself, Emma knew that nothing could hold her back anymore. Months later, Emma stood at the window, looking out at the garden where the flowers were blooming once again. She felt different now, not the same girl who had once been consumed by silence and grief. She had learned to live with the loss, to carry the love of her mother in her heart without letting it hold her back. She was healing, slowly, but with each passing day, the burden she had carried seemed lighter. The cat was still with her, always by her side, a quiet, steady presence that had helped her find her way back to life. Emma looked at the cat, who was lying peacefully by the window, its golden eyes watching her. She smiled softly. The bond they shared was unspoken, but so deep. It was as though they both understood that the journey they had started together was far from over. Emma's mother joined her at the window, wrapping her arms around her daughter. "You've come so far," her mother said softly, her voice filled with pride. "I'm so proud of you, Emma." Emma nodded, her heart swelling with warmth. "I couldn't have done it without the cat," she replied, her voice steady. "I know," her mother said, smiling. "And I'm so thankful for him." Together, they watched the sun set over the garden, the world outside quiet and peaceful. Emma no longer felt trapped by the past. She had found her voice again, not just through words, but through love, through small steps, and through the quiet presence of a cat who had shown her the way. The pain would never disappear completely, but it no longer defined her. She was free, ready to move forward, ready to live. The journey wasn't over, it had only just begun.